In today's video, I'm going to take a look at HYLN's supplemental prospectus that they issued in accordance to Rule 424B5, and this is related to the S3 filing where they can get additional cash to continue operations. And the page that I'm interested in is page 11. Plan of distribution. We have entered into a sales agreement dated April 11th, 2026 with Needham and Company LLC and Northland Securities Inc. as our sales agents for sales of our shares of our common stock in an at-the-market offering, the ATM offering program, having an aggregate offering price of up to $100 million. If you listen to the most recent earnings call during the Q&A, the only two people asking questions were from Needham Company LLC and Northland Securities Inc. And these sales folks are people that HYLN is essentially hiring. Well, not hiring, they're giving a sales commission to sell shares of HYLN stock that is being created out of thin air. We may instruct the sales agents to not to sell our common stock if the sales cannot be effected at or above the price designated by us in any instruction to the sales agents. So behind the scenes, HYLN may instruct sales agents not to sell HYLN shares at $4 a share. It's not advantageous for sales agents to sell shares at that price level because it's a little low. They could hypothetically instruct the sales agents to sell HYLN shares at or above $7 a share, because that would require fewer shares to sell because the shares have more value. But the public won't know that. That's happening behind the scenes. The higher the stock price that the stock price goes, the more advantageous it is for sales agents to sell HYLN shares because there's less dilution. Each sales agent will be entitled to compensation in the amount of up to 3% of gross sales price per share of our common stock sold through the sales agents under the sales agreement. So they're essentially selling, they would like to sell up to 100 million, and at a 3% commission, the sales agents will be getting up to $3 million between those two companies. Now, it could be 2.5% commission. It could be 2.8. The public doesn't know. It's just in that document. It says it's up to a 3% sales commission. And also in the next sentence, we estimate that the total expenses for this offering, excluding compensation payable to the sales agent under the term of the sales agreement, will be approximately $350,000. You have $100 million up for sale. The sales agents get a 3% cut, and then there's a $350,000. So all said and done, HYLN may get up to $96.65 million and extra cash that they can use to continue research and development of the Carnot generator. Now, the sales agent, if that's like a 2% cut, it may be higher than this amount, but they have to draw a line in the sand to show you at this point in time, this is the breakdown. So it's not really I mean, they're offering 100 million, but after you take out the commission and the fees, you have 96.65 million. We will report at least quarterly the number of shares our common stock sold through the sales agents under the sales agreement, the net proceeds to us, and the compensation paid by us to the sales agent in conjunction with the sales, with any sales. So at the time that this prospectus was published doesn't mean that all 100 million, that all $100 million worth of shares were sold. We won't know, the public won't know until they issue the next 10Q, and the public can see how many shares were sold, if any, and how much was paid to the sales agents. Now, an interesting thing is that on my brokerage, here's the screenshot from my brokerage, and this was a day or two after earnings. They have HYLN with a little lightning bolt, and I go and I touch the lightning bolt icon on my phone, and it says, "Why is HYLN stock moving?" HYLN stock shares are trading higher after Northland Capital Markets upgraded the stock from market perform to outperform rating and announced a $10 price target. And at the time, the screenshot, the stock price was at $4.28, and $10 is over double that amount. The name on that little alert is Northland Capital Markets. One of the sales agents that's receiving up to a 3% commission is Northland Securities, Inc. Northland Capital Markets is a division of Northland Securities, Inc. And they're tasked with selling HYLN shares. And they will get a 3% commission over the sales of shares that they're selling. And behind the scenes, HYLN may say, "We want you to sell HYLN shares at this price point or higher." And it's being sold at market prices. That's what at the market offering means, the ATM offering program. But as you can see with this alert, for some reason, they're giving a very high price target. But it's advantageous to existing shareholders because the higher the price target that it's sold at, the lower the dilution amount is. And as long-term shareholders, if you're long the stock, this means you make more money. Now, for the new investor that's actually receiving the shares from this transaction, they're buying at a higher price than normal if it is actually to go up to $10 a share. But the sales agents, they're getting a commission off the sale. So they're not really interested in what the price of HYLN stock is because they're just getting a 3%, up to a 3% cut of selling this stuff. And HYLN gets money from these new investors. And I have a feeling that the marketing videos that Thomas Healy is publishing out on social media is for these new investors because they're not aware of like the background of HYLN. So they're going to search and it's going to come up with these social media results. Because as a retail investor, I've been like looking at the stock for, I think, since at least 2022. I've been buying shares since 2021, I think, maybe 2022. I already know all this stuff, and I'm like watching his videos. I'm like, there's nothing new here, but it's not for existing long-term shareholders. It's for these new shareholders that need Ham Company and Northland Securities will be selling shares to. And ideally, HYLN needs to do something to move the needle in the stock price. And the day before, a little lightning bolt appeared on my little brokerage app with HYLN, and it says, "Why is HYLN moving?" And it mentions that the company announced a $41.7 million U.S. Navy contract. That is actually moves the needle in the right direction. It's going to start moving the stock price up because people want it. Other things that they can do is finish the UL certification process, because right now it's a non-recurring UL certification. They're kind of wordsmithing things, like sticking words before it to make it look like it's really UL certified, but in reality, it's not officially UL certified. They have this habit of sticking words in things to change its meaning. Another thing that they could do is actually sell Carnot generators, which it's a big ask to do, and it looks like they're getting there, but they've tried for the past 2 years, and I have not seen that happen yet. But that could move the needle. So HYLN would need to do something substantial to move the needle. And then in conjunction, you have these sales agents saying that this is really cool technology. Well, I don't know what they're saying. I just see that they're announcing a high price target. So it's up to HYLN to actually start executing. And the sales agents are at the ready. And that would cause the stock price to start to go up. Because another thing you have to keep in mind, that there are, if you take a look at the Form 4s, there are these restricted stock unit payouts, which the first one, the stock price needs to be from a range from between $4 and $6 a share within a 180-day calendar window for a portion of the RS units to vest. And that is dependent on the stock price. So this is a situation where you can see HYLN, it's a dual purpose thing. HYLN gets cash to continue operating the business. And a part of that, I know it was stated in the 8K or 8Q. We'll get to that in the next video about their 3D printers. And there's a secondary thing, is that they can get their RSU shares vested for their at-risk compensation. So the executives and C-suite people can get a nice bonus. A similar thing happened with the Form 4s, with the stock price being $2 to $3 a share. And how they did that was to buy back shares to cure a deficiency with trading on the New York Stock Exchange. But at the same time, there was a dual purpose, so the executives can get RSUs or PSUs, so they can get their bonus, or they can get more stocks for their at-risk compensation. So I'm seeing this kind of dual thing playing out, where HYLN gets money to continue operations, and if they can execute, which is a big if, they will also get a nice bonus to hit what appeared on their Form 4s for the stock price being in a certain range. And another thing is that these sales agents will be getting up to a 3% cut in the sales stock price And that's all that I have for this video. Thanks for watching.